my work analyzing these data for news media, as well as in my public speaking and other commentary and analysis, I have always supported the Census Bureau. Now, my support and that of many others I've learned is at best conditional. The reasons are of importance to Missouri. As the 2010 census is conducted and results presented to the President no later than December of this year, we must inquire more critically into the Census Bureau, its influences, and its extraordinary absence of public and congressional review and oversight. In my opinion, and that of many others as well, it seems clear that our government, both elected officials and key federal bureaucrats, have wandered a far distance from our nation's original purposes in this enumeration. The census is now very big business and is a primary tool in furthering the objectives of some of the nation's most active political partisans. To demonstrate the outsized bureaucracy which has grown from that original 1790 Act of Congress, note that while the 2000 census cost $6.5 billion, this one will be $15 to $17 billion. Our population increase since 2000 will be about 9%. Spending on the census will be closer to 140%. The census has certainly changed dramatically since 1790, but no matter the changes, and political and bureaucratic meddling and tinkering notwithstanding, two inarguable purposes of the census have remained. First, congressional apportionment, including the related electoral college voting, and second, the distribution of federal spending to the states. A deeper look into where we are in practice with these most basic and constitutionally mandated tasks quickly reveals how the Census Bureau and others in our federal government have failed to adjust to contemporary population change, notably in migration. Congressional reapportionment is the every 10 years process of adjusting the distribution among the states of the now 435 seats in the U.S. House. Given our nation's ever-increasing centralization of power in Washington, D.C., in the federal government, and given that each state is assured 2 seats in the U.S. Senate, a state's overall political power is based in and varies according to this decennial recalculation performed by the Census Bureau. Missouri well understands and demonstrates these shifts. From a peak of 16 representative districts before the 1930 census, you now have 9. With a population as of July 1st, 2009 of 5,987,580, up 7% since 2000. Missouri should hold its 9 seats after this spring census. Election Data Services in D.C., the authority for such projections, says the following in its most recent report, quote, "Earlier estimates and studies have pointed to Missouri as potentially losing a congressional seat, but the new data finds the state just barely keeping the district, with anywhere from 5,000 to 14,000 people to spare," end quote. For a small group of other states, my state of Louisiana included, losses in congressional representation will occur both because of our lagging population growth and what we see as the unconstitutional inclusion of non-citizens in reapportionment calculations. Our math, verified by a pro-left New York Times, which hired its own demographer to check us out, showed that Louisiana, Iowa, Indiana, Michigan, Montana, North and South Carolina, Oregon, and Pennsylvania would receive 1 additional congressional seat if all non-citizens, though counted in the census, were not included in the calculations of congressional reapportionment. Those 9 congressional seats, instead, have gone to other states with high non-citizen populations. 5 to California, 2 to Texas, and 1 each to Illinois and New York. Congressional oversight is now sketchy at best, as we proved in learning that many members of the U.S. House and Senate did not know that there was no citizenship question in the 2010 census. And neither were some aware that non-citizens were included for reapportionment of the U.S. House. So, without the citizenship question on the census questionnaire, how do we know the basic numbers required to study these issues? The American Community Survey, which does include a citizenship question. In their latest 3-year wave of ACS data, the Bureau found that 21,601,275 non-citizens live in America, more than 7% of the national population. However, owing to the 1999 Supreme Court determination I discussed earlier, and without an affirmative court decision in some new litigation, the ACS cannot supplant the results of the census should Congress order the Census Bureau to adjust its reapportionment calculation. Now, the second of the interesting facts in this context: no matter how much grist for the partisan political mill the broad subject might provide, so-called illegals are not the only issue here. They, undocumented migrants, as I agree with the Bureau they should be called, are a 40 to 45% minority of all non-citizens. We know little about the other non-citizens, but it is they, according to the nonpartisan Center for Immigration Studies, who are the majority of those at issue, not illegals. Last week, after years of consistency and resistance to political pressure, the Bureau caved in and changed its policy on the residence of those incarcerated in America's prisons. For the first time, 2010 census results of prisoner enumeration will be forwarded to states in a form allowing the states to either count populations where the prisons are located or not count them at all. Importantly, I found in my research a 2006 congressional directive for the Census Bureau to study and report back to Congress on this issue. The Bureau did so, and its response strongly detailed the reasons prisoners must be counted in their places in which prisons are located, not at their last pre-incarceration address. With this change, the issue of college students immediately arises. Like prisoners and everyone else, students are encouraged to put down, quote, where they live and sleep most of the year, not their parents' residence. According to the latest ACS data, your state has 120,219 non-citizens among its residents. So, with those residents included in the calculations, Missouri has 1.954% of America's 50-state population. If, however, America backs out the non-citizen population, Missouri has 2.062% of the national population. The difference is a bit over 1/10%, 0.108%. Seems tiny difference. But when multiplied by $450 billion a year, it's a loss to Missouri of just under $478 million every year, or nearly $5 billion before the 2020 census.